A single guitar chord can transport us to the autumn of our lives, and one tragic love can echo forever. Beat. Step into Toru Watanabe's Tokyo, where every choice hums with longing. 1. Haunted by memory. Toru Watanabe's story begins mid-flight, when the Beatles' Norwegian Wood drifts through an airplane cabin and tears open a dormant wound. Beat. In that instant, the past turns vivid, and we are hurled back to 1960s Tokyo, a city rebuilding itself as feverishly as Toru's own generation seeks meaning. Toru is 19, quiet, observant, and seemingly detached, yet already marked by emphasis. Beat. His best friend Kizuki, a charismatic boy who made the world feel mischievous and alive, commits suicide without warning at 17. The inexplicable act fractures Toru's sense of stability. Instead of answers, he inherits a void. Each memory Toru recounts is rendered with Murakami's trademark clarity, precise, tactile, and tinged with yearning. We wander through college dormitories that smell of miso soup and cigarette smoke, through movie theatres playing European art films, and into the park where Toru and Naoko, Kizuki's girlfriend, take long, silent walks. Beat. None of these places offer escape. They only intensify the ache of remembering a friend whose laughter now exists only in echoes. Yet Toru's narration is not melodramatic. He analyzes every conversation like a well-worn vinyl sleeve, flipping it over for hidden scratches and subtle grooves. He notices how Naoko's hands tremble even when the conversation is light, how her birthday falls on the very day Kizuki died, and how their shared grief forges a fragile but dangerous intimacy. Beat. Memory stalks them both, persistent, unyielding, a shadow at noon. Murakami invites us to feel the oppressive weight of nostalgia. It is sweet, like the scent of cedar in Naoko's hair, but also suffocating. The section closes with Toru moving from the outskirts of memory into the thick of it, acknowledging that to truly live, he must first confront, not evade, the spectre of the past. Beat. In doing so, he asks the universal question: when the dead refuse silence, how can the living move forward? 2. Searching for connection. After months of meandering conversations, Toru and Naoko finally sleep together on Naoko's 20th birthday. Beat. The moment is tender, almost sacred, yet it fractures Naoko's already fragile psyche, pushing her toward a remote sanatorium in the forested hills of Kyoto. Toru is left in Tokyo amid the swirl of student protests, cheap jazz bars, and university lectures he barely attends. He writes Naoko letters, sometimes daily, sometimes after long gaps, hoping words can tether their souls across the miles. But letters, like telephone lines in a storm, crackle with static. Their longing seeps through every page. Here, Murakami introduces Midori Kobayashi, a vibrant classmate whose very presence crackles with life. She dyes rice paper lanterns on her apartment balcony, drinks beer at lunchtime, and peppers Toru with blunt questions about sex and death. Midori's openness acts as a counterweight to Naoko's fragility. Beat. Where Naoko is silence, Midori is noise. Where Naoko walks through memory, Midori sprints toward possibility. Toru stands at the intersection of two emotional worlds, a delicate equilibrium that forces him to confront what connection really means. Does love require healing the other person, or merely accompanying them through darkness? Beat. As he spends afternoons nursing Midori's ailing father in a crumbling hospital ward, Toru glimpses love not as rescue, but as presence, the simple, stubborn act of staying near when life is unbearably raw. Yet the pull of Naoko remains gravitational. Toru visits the mountain retreat, guided by Reiko Ishida, Naoko's guitar-strumming roommate who has her own mosaic of traumas. Surrounded by pines and the quiet rhythm of communal chores, Toru senses a fleeting calm. But Naoko's internal storm continues. Her depression is not a chapter, but a condition, as immutable as seasonal change. Connection, Murakami suggests, is both balm and blade. Beat. We crave it so intensely that we risk being carved open by the very closeness we seek. Toru begins to realize that he cannot belong wholly to two realities, and yet choosing feels like betrayal, not decision. The section closes with him suspended, torn between the emphasis, living, and those drifting toward the edge. 3. The edge of adulthood. College life rolls on with an almost absurd normality. Roommates debate Karl Marx between rounds of mahjong, and folk songs waft from dorm windows at dusk. Beat. Toru reads voraciously Fitzgerald, Mann, Hesse, searching for a roadmap to adulthood within their pages. Yet every philosophical breakthrough is undercut by the looming question of practical survival. What does it mean to step fully into one's own life when the rules seem permanently in flux? The political protests that spark across Tokyo University barely graze Toru's consciousness. He observes them from the periphery, recognizing their urgency, but sensing their hollowness for him personally. Beat. His revolution is interior, fought in the quiet trenches of conscience and desire. Reiko's lengthy confessions during Toru's visits to the sanatorium serve as cautionary tales. She recounts a false accusation of sexual misconduct that shattered her career and marriage, illustrating how an individual's story can be rewritten by rumor. Her guitar becomes both shield and megaphone, transmuting pain into melody as she reprises old standards like Norwegian Wood. Naoko's decline sharpens the stakes of Toru's moral quandary. When she eventually takes her own life, following a night of bittersweet serenity under the moonlit pines, the news lands like shrapnel in Toru's chest. Beat. Suddenly, every stroll, every letter, every shared silence feels like a missed opportunity to save her. He spirals through grief's stages with no guiding script, drifting to isolated beaches and sleeping in train stations. Midori, meanwhile, issues a clear challenge. Choose to live, choose to love. She refuses to let Toru wallow in romanticized suffering. Her blunt texts and unfiltered laughter expose the line between mourning and self-indulgence. Standing on the threshold of 21, Toru realizes adulthood is less a door you step through and more a cliff you must climb, fingernail by fingernail, aware that one slip could undo you. Beat. The weight of agency settles on him. No one will dictate his path. And in that acceptance, he senses the first glimmer of an emphasis future. 4. Music, melancholy, and meaning. Throughout the novel, music works like emotional shorthand. From the Beatles to Miles Davis, each song cues an atmosphere that words alone cannot capture. Reiko's guitar sessions become a secular liturgy, sanctifying the ordinary and translating suffering into harmony. Beat. When she and Toru duet on Norwegian Wood after Naoko's funeral, the refrain hovers, unresolved, like a question the living must keep answering. Murakami also marshals landscape as symphony, urban neon buzzing like electric chords, forest silence droning like a distant cello. These sensory motifs reinforce the novel's central dialectic, how beauty and pain coexist, how melancholy can be both weight and wing. The book's sexual frankness, often controversial, serves not to titillate, but to underline vulnerability. Bodies are the vessels through which characters try to mute loneliness, even if only briefly. Beat. For Toru and Midori, Lovemaking becomes an act of choosing life over oblivion, an embrace that says, I acknowledge the abyss, but I'm here, with you, anyway. Literary allusions thread the narrative with extra resonance. Toru's admiration for the Great Gatsby mirrors his own longing for an irretrievable past. Hesse's Beneath the Wheel warns of the perils awaiting sensitive souls crushed by societal expectations. These references aren't academic flourishes. They are signposts guiding Toru through a labyrinth where meaning must be assembled piece by piece. Ultimately, Norwegian Wood invites readers to dwell in ambiguity. Happiness is never absolute, closure rarely final. Beat. Even in the final pages, when Toru phones Midori from a rainy phone booth and begs, Tell me where I am, we are left without a concrete answer. Instead, we feel the pulse of possibilities, the silence before a new chord is struck. The novel's brilliance lies in its refusal to resolve every dissonance. It trusts the reader, as Toru must trust himself, to supply the next note. Beat. That lingering uncertainty is the story's ultimate emphasis, truth.